Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
You know, the guy at the execution throwing the tomatoes.
Uh, um,
Welcome to the Comedians in Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, DeAndre Noir. I did it. I burned it again. Anyway, DeAndre, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
everybody, my name is DeAndre Noir. I am an actor based out of Sarasota, Florida. I've been acting for about 8 years, 9 years, and it is my full-time profession. I love what I do, and I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you ready to get into it, DeAndre?
Yes, indeed.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comments section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. All right. So the main point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So DeAndre, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
Yes, I do agree with that.
Okay. All right. So you ready for the first question?
Let's go.
All right. So it's about the role of persona in comedy. How much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Ooh. Repeat that one more time.
About the role of persona in comedy. How much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
I think that the voice is its own separate character. I mean, in order to, I guess, hit a joke, land the joke, and even portray it in a way that could be, if a joke's, I guess, offensive per se, you say it in a different dialect, different tone. I think it's all about the tone, the dialect, and the voice that has to take on that role to begin with. So I'd say it's a role all in itself.
Okay. All right. So does authenticity matter or is illusion part of the magic?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that you have to be authentic in the material that you're doing, but also a little bit of, hyperbole and a little exaggeration to, I guess, hit home in comedy.
All right. All right. So punching up versus punching down. Where do comics versus comedians stand on this? So let me put in some historical context. Did
All
a
right.
jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester? Beady, 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 beady.
How about that? These are thought provoking. I like this. Um, that I'm not sure of. I don't know if I have the background knowledge for that one.
Well, there is none. I mean, we're not sure if it even happened. This is alternate history. We don't know what's really going on. You're in the elevator. You know that, right? We're going up to space. We're going to orbit. We're going to be making things and dropping them back down to Earth.
All
So
right.
is the audience's agreement with the comedian a form of permission or alignment?
To an extent. I think that you have to read the room with your audience. I think that you have to, do a little crowd work, see what they're into, see what they're not into. But I also think the crowd has to know, what they're coming to see. I think there's a level of decorum with each comic and their material. So if you're offended by something that a comic is known for, then you can't be really mad if a comic is portraying that type of thing at the venue.
All right. So cultural translation of comedy. How do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
I think that would have to do with, I guess, the climate of that, like climate of like the political stance. economic stance, just the whole, I guess, general vibe of that country, the rules, uh, and their customs. I think that those play a big factor in what lands and what doesn't land. What may be offensive in England may not be offensive in the U.S. Just because of how our customs work and how we live our day-to-day lives.
Okay. So are comics, so even better, is truth the meaning of facts?
Is truth the meaning of facts? I think truth is what is selective at the time. And I think fact is concrete. No matter what your opinions are, the facts are facts, but truth can be subjective depending on the time.
Okay, very nice. So are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
I'd say so.
All right. So crowd work versus crafted work. So if comics riff like influencers in the comments section and comedians perform like in reaction videos, where is the sweet spot?
I think that lies in between, I guess, again, knowing your audience and also just knowing the climate of what's going on in the world at the time, what can be perceived as, I guess, off limits or a little edgy versus, don't go there versus, it's been long enough that we can kind of joke about this now.
Okay, okay. So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work?
I think that they can get a little lost in their performance. I think the crowd could easily take control of the momentum and the speed of the performance, which can be especially dangerous for like a newer comic. And too much crowd work can often lead to disaster if the comic doesn't have a grip on what's going on.
What about when a comedian gets heckled?
I think that all depends on the level of authority that the comic has. A heckle could, amplify a joke. It could also destroy an entire set depending on how that comic handles the situation. I think handling it with a level of decorum, but also, a little bit of a clap back to assert dominance, if you will, I think goes a long way. But if you allow that heckler to, I guess, visibly shake you, then you've lost your crowd.
Hmm. All right, very important question. Advertising and self promotion. Who advertises themselves more? The comic, the comedian, or the magician?
Hmm.
You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
I'd say the magician. I'd say
Okay.
that they have to sell something that you don't really believe. And I think that takes a lot more of selling yourself to get people drawn in.
Very good. So is self promotion seen as selling out, or is it necessary for survival?
I think it's absolutely necessary. I mean, being an actor myself, I self promote all the time. I think it's just how you do it in a tasteful manner. I think it's easy to lean into the sellout, territory if you're, I guess, kind of arrogant about it or boastful or desperate. But
Hmm.
self promotion is, I believe, key.
All right. So censorship and offense. Does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point like a magician?
I think they can both lean into it. I think a comedian more so, just being a little more seasoned. But I think it's all just about how you again how you control that crowd, how you control the wave, how you perceive those events, and how you can play those into your main point. Because I believe that the jokes are the jokes, and we're all here for laughs. But I think it's at the end of the day, it's here to convey a message. And I think that message has to hit home.
All right. So then who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
Ooh. Define mudslinger for me.
You know, the guy at the execution throwing the tomatoes?
Uh, um, that's a tough one. I think that they all have the capability to be a victim of cancel culture. I think it's more so if they stand on what they say, what they believe in. I think if you double down on something that is considered a cancelable offense, uh, and you are unapologetic about it, I think that is something you can survive. I think that sometimes cancel culture can lean a little too heavy into its own self-worth, and I think it can overdo itself sometimes. But surviving that is all about standing on your word and standing on your ground and meaning what you say.
All right. So timing and delivery, science or art? Do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on rhythm and emotion?
I think you would rely on rhythm and emotion once you get more seasoned. I think from comics when they first start out, it's more of a science. I guess trying to get that timing right, seeing what works, doesn't work. But once you really feel it, when you're seasoned and you feel a crowd, I think that that's when you can just kind of riff off yourself, and you don't even think about it. It's a second nature at that point.
Okay. So laughter versus applause. Are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks or a prime time Emmy that validates the message?
I'd say a comic does. Again, everyone wants that chase of adrenaline. Everyone wants that to be you know that person, the guy that makes the whole crowd laugh. But I think at a certain point, that's an expected thing from a comedian. If they weren't getting those laughs, they wouldn't be there. I think it's more so about the message that they want to convey at the end of the day versus the laughs, because that's a given for them at that point.
All right. So comedy is commentary. When does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
I think they've already crossed that from the very beginning. I think it's just how well they hide it in their sets. Uh, but the message is going to be there from the very beginning. I think it's just opening the viewer's eyes slowly to what they're trying to convey.
So is that good or does it dilute the humor?
I think it's very good. I think humor without I guess a message is I think that's what separates a professional from just your average Joe telling a joke. I think it's to convey those messages in a way that makes you laugh and makes you you know you know tear up laughing. But at the end of the day, when you go home and you think about that message, you're like, I really learned something there.
All right. Now the elevator doors open onto the multiverse. So,
All
board
right.
games Zoomcast, play versus performance. If comedy were a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
Hmm. I definitely say the first option. I think it's the responsibility of a comic to not only set up those jokes, those punchlines, and everything, but also to convey the mood of the room. If you don't have the right, atmosphere for your set, for your audience, no matter what your punchline is, I mean, it's dead in the water.
Okay. All right. So, does comedy work better when it's painted vividly? I would argue as a comic, or when it's orchestrated sonically, I would argue as a comedian.
Hmm. I think that would have to do with your audience. I think they can both work. I think they can work simultaneously. Uh, but I think that's just knowing your crowd, knowing your environment, and also just the type of humor that you portray.
Okay. So, here on the Comedians and Elevators podcast, we have a tradition where the previous guest asks a question for the next guest. And the previous guest was Scott Marcano. And his question for you, DeAndre, is what is the funniest movie of all time?
Uh, uh, it would have to be this movie I just watched 2 weeks ago. It's funny for all the wrong reasons. It's the 2025 War of the Worlds with Ice Cube. Uh, One of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's hilariously funny because of the bad acting. Uh, and I
I think
couldn't
it,
stop laughing the entire time through.
yeah, it's not a comedy. They're playing it straight, right?
Yes, yes. It is supposed to be played straight, but the way that it is orchestrated, the way that it's framed and the emotions, it's what are they doing?
It's over the. Is that the one where there's like a weather situation that they have like a NASA scientist that are investigating? They think it's aliens and national security is involved, something like that.
Yes, and it takes place on a Zoom call.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yeah,
Worst
horrible.
I can't ever see.
Yeah, yeah, it's so bad it's good. That's right. Is that pretty much how you're looking
That
at it?
that's it.
You're
Hmm.
like they hit the comedy note and it ain't a comedy. You're like that must be
Nope.
some kind of new like fake gold. So, all right. So, last question. Legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics Tight 5 survive time or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
I think the comedian's point of view. I think at the end of the day, jokes are jokes and they're funny, but I think the lasting impression that those jokes not only leave with the viewer, but leave with a generation is the impactful thing. A lot of my favorite comics, like Dave Chappelle, he's a lot of cultural impact that he's had specifically in my community still ring on to this day, and that's the reason he's survived so long. Um, so I really think it has to do with the impact that the comedian has and the message that they're conveying.
Ah, I didn't know you're part of the trans community, DeAndre. Just kidding. Okay, that was a joke. So, DeAndre, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on Google. Just type in my name, DeAndre Noir. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, pretty much anywhere.
All right. Well, DeAndre, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everybody, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you.